Hello, romance lovers. Today I have a story for you called My Witch. Don't forget to support this video with a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new interesting stories. Thank you for watching. The young lady wrote the same letter hundreds of times, but unfortunately, it never reached the recipient. Because it was not normal love. It was witch love, and it cannot be explained in words. It is not like that of people. A young and very beautiful young girl was helping an old woman. Because of her wild beauty, her peers called the beauty a witch behind her back. As soon as they saw her, they started pointing at her and saying that she was casting a spell again. The young girls saw the blonde person when she was helping her grandmother. They knew that it was Brad's grandmother. They also knew that she had been getting worse and worse lately. As she was sick, young boys witnessed what was happening, and without thinking twice, they came to the defense of the blonde girl. One of the boys said that she knew healing herbs and decided to help her grandmother. He also told them to stop their unnecessary conversation. Philippa started teasing Mikhail. The girl repeated that since he was on her side, he was her prince. The young man asked Philippa to stop teasing him, but she did not listen to him and continued. Another boy supported Philippa. One of the girls said that the young boy really liked the blonde girl, and he probably wanted to burn at the stake with her. Mikhail heard their conversation and furiously shouted at them to stop. Since they had grown up, Mikhail told his friends that Cordelia knew everything there was to know about medicinal herbs. However, in this era, if you were very beautiful, smart, or incredibly talented at something, you would be mistaken for a witch. Cordelia is one of the most attractive young ladies in their settlement. Many boys her age, as soon as they see the blonde beauty, immediately begin to drool and look at her with such an expression on their faces as if they want to take. But there are two young men who do not look at her with such a frantic desire to possess her. They despise young men who cannot control their emotions. There are also young girls in the small town who are furiously jealous of Cordelia. Their envy grows into malice and ridicule, and also often into the most that does not eat bullying of the girl. The young boy met Philippa and said that the Baron had ordered him to make candles. Philippa said that this was very good, since he could live on this money for 2 years. The boy, when he came closer, he saw what the girl was doing. She was throwing tomatoes at the door. Philippa said that he scared her and asked if he had come to the witch to get candle wax. He looked at her in confusion, and the boy looked at Philip and asked where she got the tomatoes, as he guessed that they came from the fat lady's field. Philippa confirmed his words. The woman was furious when she saw how the tomatoes were maliciously spoiled. She screamed furiously at the blonde girl. The woman was sure that she did it on purpose. Cordelia, in turn, screamed that it was not her doing and that she did not understand what had happened at all. But the woman was persistent. She accused her of theft as well. She said that all the facts were there because her bag was on the girl's table and she deliberately smeared tomatoes on the door. Everyone stood and watched as the woman quarreled with the girl. Everyone present was whispering and wondering how the girl could do such a thing. They were sure that this was the most wasteful thing in the world. She was their scapegoat. Mikhail came to Cordelia's defense. The girl was very surprised, but at the same time very happy that he stood on her side. But unfortunately, since everyone gathered united against her, he did not. When just one person becomes a scapegoat in the eyes of others, nothing will help him except to disappear from their sight. People are cunning, and before they have time to get rid of one scapegoat, they move on to the next weaker link in their chain. The man listed all the goods that were on sale. He hesitated when he saw that Madame Vicky had few tomatoes. He told her about it. She replied that one girl had destroyed all her stock of tomatoes. He said that she should catch the culprit of this problem. All the people in the market were whispering about Cordelia. They were worried and confused how she could show herself in public after the incident. The young girls also supported the criticism of their elders and condemned the girl who was not guilty. The men discussed everything that was happening. One of the older men told his little friend that he should go and work on the candles. The young man said that he had to wait for the mold to harden and also finish the candlesticks and the decorations for the lamp. The man asked if he needed to silver everything and said that he could help him. The boy was a little surprised, but thanked him for his help. The other men said that the boy had talent and they had high hopes for him. The young man only laughed in response. Philippa was throwing tomatoes at the tree. The boy said that Mr. Beetle had put off the day's tax for the fat lady. The red-haired girl said that she could do this every day. He was surprised by her action and asked why she was doing this. He also said that she could ignore her since he hated her so much. She looked at him with disdain and said that he could do nothing but talk about it, and called him one-armed. The boy was a one-armed candle maker, one arm less, and he was already worse at it. So his candles were only. Colin stood and looked mysteriously out of the window. Men came to him and asked where the silver candlesticks were, as they wanted to look at him. Colin said that they were somewhere on the table. The men were puzzled because they had not. The men asked where he had put them. The young man began to recall where he had been all day and where he had gone. Colin said that he had gone to get decorative flowers from Cordali's house. The men looked at each other. People went to the orphan's house and saw a terrible picture. One of the men said that there were candlesticks and candles lying on the ground and they were all broken. It would take a whole week to make new ones. He was at a loss because the tax was due the following day. The people of the small town were shocked. They did not understand who had done all this. One of the ladies saw a young blonde girl and grabbed her by the hair. She said that she was guilty of all their sins. The woman screamed furiously that a young man could not stand such a sight and stood up for her. He shouted that she had had enough and that he would not tolerate this abuse of an innocent girl. All the inhabitants of the city blamed her for all the troubles. The young girls shouted that it was all her fault and that she was hiding behind a man. They claimed that Cordelia was a coward and that she had enslaved him out of fear. The villagers continued to hurl the men were shouting furiously not only at the poor girl. They were disturbing the peace of the one-armed fry and demanding that he say something, since all his work had been destroyed by the blonde girl. The man said that Colin stood next to the red-haired girl and said that he did not think that the blonde girl had done all this. He knew for sure that Philippa was to blame for all the mischief, since he had seen her doing harm more than once. The girl looked at him with a furious expression on her face, but later only smiled. Philippa approached Colin, quietly took the knife and stabbed herself with his hand. She screamed that he had taken her by surprise and made her terrible secret public. The residents were perplexed by what was happening. They were scared, surprised, angry, and at the same time glad that they had found a witch. Looking at them, she said they were a little spoiled and not fit for eating, but she could take quantity in exchange for quality. The young man said that they would not allow her to do anything and not to harm anyone. All the villagers supported his words and said that they were more numerous and could deal with her. They screamed and wanted to kill her, while the men went to attack the witch. The women and young girls discussed the blonde girl. In a fit of emotion, they said that she did nothing and she was very good. Not at all like a witch. The real witch did everything on purpose to fool them and slandered the blonde girl. The residents dealt with her in a fit of furious anger. Men and women thanked the young boy who helped them deal with the witch. After the witch was dealt with, some said they should drink. Others said they should tell the church so they could be given an honorary title and medals. There were also those who said that everyone should calm down because tomorrow was tax day. One of the men said that the Baron would definitely like the news, and he would tell him everything tomorrow. The blonde witch arrived at her destination. After looking around, she told Philippa to climb out a little more carefully. The girl told her to take her hand. She asked Philippa if she could use magic since she was buried very deep. Philippa said that she did not need to use magic, since there was a risk that she would be exposed too. She also said that little Lily said that she did not want to help a master who made his servant do strange things. The blonde girl said that Lily had every right to be angry at this point. She added that Philippa should not have gone. Philippa was a little confused and did not understand what she could do in this situation that would suit the blonde girl. After all, she knew that she really liked the young man, and she had to help her. The blonde witch said that she understood everything, but it was a very difficult situation, and she could look for another way. She knew that Philippa had suffered and she hated it very much. They were talking, and Philippa calmed her friend down by saying that they were celebrating and that no one would come to them yet. Their conversation was interrupted. They looked in fear at who had come to them. A young man came to them. He just stood and looked at them. The blonde girl grabbed the knife. The boy asked her to calm down, saying that he would not do anything. Then she, in a fit of anger, grabbed him by the throat. Philippa shouted at her to calm down, as he would not harm them. But the witch said that he had seen them and that he needed to be killed immediately. Philippa looked at her and said that it was just a boy, and he wouldn't tell anyone anything and asked him to believe her. The girl looked at him with disdain and let go of the knife. She left a bruise on his neck as a keepsake. Cordelia asked her sister to leave the village quickly, as people from the church would soon arrive. Philippa said that she knew their plans. She assured her that she would cope with them, and everything would be fine. Colin stood and Cordelia, in tears, said that if Philippa left now, it would be many decades before they saw each other again. She promised her that next time she would burn at the stake in her place. Philippa looked at her and told her not to talk like that. After all, the witch is still very young. Cordelia has already suffered so much to get her happiness. She also told her that human life is very short and she needs to be happy, to live life with her loved one. Cordelia said that she would try to live it well. They hugged and said goodbye. Cordelia left and kept turning around and looking at them for a long time. Philippa looked at the one-armed boy and asked if his neck hurt. Colin looked at her with bewilderment. The girl said that Cordelia was very strong. With her magic, she healed him. After healing, she looked at him and told him to come home here, since he was too young to walk with them at night. He was a little confused and shouted at her to wait and not to leave without him. Philippa said that she used him because he was just a good boy who was looking for proof of the blonde girl's innocence. But unfortunately, he failed, and she helped reveal the truth to people. They stood and argued for a long time. She told him to go back home to the village. But he was angry and said that he would not go back. Colin did not understand why he had to. Philippa told him that everything would be fine in their small town now. He was surprised. She said that their feast for killing the witch would only last a couple of days, and then the young boy screamed that people don't change and things will only get worse. Philippa screamed furiously that this couldn't be true and things would get much better than they were. She said she guaranteed it and he could trust her. The boy was confused. Colin said that she was a witch and he couldn't really trust her. He asked her why she thought it would only get better. She looked at him with joy and said that the evil witch was gone. So everything would be fine, and added that he could quickly return to the village. Philippa said that he could have some fun. Colin looked at her and said that he didn't want anything from her. He grabbed her familiar and walked away from her. The witch screamed after him that he couldn't do that because it was her familiar. He did leave. She screamed after him for a long time. Philippa was wandering in the twilight of the night when she heard the voice of a boy. He told her from afar that she was late. Philippa was furious and did not understand how he had arrived before her. He threw the familiar into her hands. Philippa caught it and asked him in bewilderment why he was following her. She said that he could have stayed in the other. He said she had said this many times, but it didn't sound very true. In each new village they had traveled, she had told him that he should leave her and settle down somewhere else. She had screamed at him that he was just a child, and he should. Colin just looked at her and said that he has no family. He is an orphan and he can do whatever he wants. They arrived in one of the new cities and went to a hotel. Philippa wanted to rent a room for them to live in comfortable conditions. The woman looked at her and asked how she copes with 2 children. She knew that it is hard to live alone. Philippa was embarrassed and said that was true. She added that they had been sleeping outside for a couple of days and said that any discount would be very significant for them. The woman said that she would now see what could be. The young man asked the witch how much she had bargained with her. The witch said that the woman had been very nice and had saved them a lot of money. Colin looked at her and asked if she was really sensitive about money. The witch said that given her alchemical skills were negligible, she needed to save money. Colin asked what she was good at then. The witch hesitated, not knowing what to answer. Colin looked at Philippa and said that the only thing she was good at was manipulating people like him. Colin wanted to leave. Philippa asked him where he wanted to go. She looked at him pitifully and asked him to stay and not leave her. They slept together on the same bed. The young man could not fall asleep for a long time. He was angry and also embarrassed and decided to go to sleep on the ground. The young witch woke up and saw him sleeping on the floor. She thought that now it was no wonder that she had been cold at night. They were sitting at the table and eating. The owner of the establishment came up to them and said that they could arrange a tour of the city, since they had many kiosks. The witch thanked her, saying that she had been there many times, but her son, Colin, sat and listened as the men who listened to their conversation were surprised how they could be related when they didn't even look alike. The young boy held his little sister in his arms and said that Philippa was very bad at acting. The witch was furious and said that he could not make fun of her and her teachers. The young man was a little puzzled that she had teachers. The witch decided to show him her teachers. She brought him to a performance. After watching the performance, he could not understand what the woman had learned. Philippa looked at him with tear-stained eyes and said that the performance was wonderful. She had learned a lot. Colin did not like the whole performance and was disappointed. The young man asked how a witch could learn anything from people. Philippa said that since she was a witch, she could learn a lot. First of all, she should learn to blend in with people in a crowd. He was puzzled. Colin kept telling her that witches hunt people and they can't live together in peace. Philippa said that it's not they who hunt them, but people who hunt the poor witches. People are afraid of everything they don't understand. Hearing her words, he became very angry because he knew what she was doing in his small town. And he decided to leave. Lily asked why the mistress allowed him to be around them. The little girl said that he had a very difficult character. The witch said that her magic did not work on him for some unknown reason. She tried memory distortion, visual hallucination, but nothing worked. Philippa thought that maybe he had some kind of ability or special resistance to magic. Lily asked why she couldn't just run away from him completely. After all, she could fly away from him on her broomstick or travel to any other time or place or country or dimension in just a few seconds. The boy sat in the room and thought about what had happened. He ran away, but when he realized that he had nowhere to go, he had to go back, because he was just a child. Lily went upstairs, took the boy, and together they went down to the table. They ate. The witch was very clumsy. Philippa spilled a drink on the table, and Colin began to wipe her hand. Philippa laughed and said that her boy was very smart. The young man was very angry because he had to play a small, clumsy boy and, moreover, her son. Colin was angry more than once when he lived with the witch, but he stayed with her and did not leave. He grew up and was engaged in the craft of making candles. The witch was relaxing on the bed, enjoying cookies and tea. Philippa said that this time they would stay in the city and live. The boy and Lily were shocked by her words. Philippa and the boy lived together for 5 years. The boy grew, but the witch did not change at all. She was as young as the first day. The innkeeper said that the boy was so grown up that it was time for him to live in another. The landlady's son asked the young man if they were really mother and son. The woman told him to watch his words. Everyone in the inn wondered how it was possible that the woman had not aged a single day since they had moved. The owner said that it was not their problem and that there was no need to bother her visitors, because she knew how difficult it was to raise children alone. She said that she had raised a young boy on her own and did not expect to hear such words from him about other people. He said that he was not the only one who thought so. All the others thought so too, but decided to remain silent. She said that he had no feelings, no decency, and asked him to shut up. And she also told all the visitors to. The boy said that he wanted to change rooms. The witch asked him why he decided to do that, since they behaved like son and mother. He was a little puzzled. She asked where the child had the money to pay for the room. Colin said that he was no longer a child and could provide for himself, and there was no need to treat him like a little boy. He left them and said that he would come for dinner. A young man opened his own kiosk in the city, and it became very popular. His new friend said that he should open a store and move to the Alley of Craftsmen, because there he would have more opportunities to earn good money. The man said that wax crafts are very popular among young ladies. He also said that if he moves to a new place, he will be able to create very expensive, beautiful candles that will bring him very good money. The young man said that The man looked at him with confusion and said that he was a father and had to provide for his family if he wanted to give his daughter to a good man. Colin looked at him and said that she was not his daughter. He remained silent and said nothing. Lily was sitting near the young man's bench when she saw another familiar. A little girl lost her master and screamed at the top of her voice. A blonde witch told her not to talk like that in a public place. Killian and Cordelia were sitting drinking tea with their familiars. They were chatting casually, and he told her his whole story since the last time they saw each other. The blonde witch was shocked that he had been living with her friend for 5 years already. She was perplexed how this could be. After thinking for a while, she said that after all, her Philippa had a kind soul after all. Cordelia asked the young man if he agreed with. He thought about it and decided to change the subject. Colin looked at the little girl and said that she was very charming. He added that the girl reminded him very much of Mikael. The witch said that it could not be otherwise. The witch said that the process itself was tiring and very hard. Colin asked how and what she did. He thought that the witch could cast a spell on the child in her womb. The witch laughed and said, laughing, Cordelia said she would never have a child. She would not want to ruin her body and gain weight. The young man was taken aback by this statement and looked at her in bewilderment. The witch said that this was actually her familiar. She was an azure bird. It would not be difficult for. The witch said with sadness in her voice that if she had given birth to another woman for her husband, he would have loved her, not the witch. After the meeting, Lily and Colin were walking to the hotel. Lily said that witches love differently, but their love looks the same among themselves. They came to the hotel and saw a strange and terrible picture. The witch was sitting on a chair near the table, and she was surrounded by bodies everywhere. The young man looked at her. He instantly understood why Lily was in such a hurry to see the witch. He asked what had happened. Philippa replied that several men had suddenly tried to grab her. The young man asked if she had killed them or not. The young man approached one of the men and thrust a piece of a bottle into his throat. The witch looked at him. His action puzzled her. She asked what he was doing. Colin answered in a calm voice. Philippa didn't understand why he was doing this. Colin looked at her and asked her what she didn't understand about this situation. The witch couldn't say a word. Not wanting to continue the conversation on the topic of murder, the young man asked where Lily was. Philippa said that Lily was casting a mind manipulation spell on the innkeeper and everyone else who was present at the hotel. The witch looked at him and, with a smile on her face, said that with the help of a spell, they could all forget that the witch and the young man were mother and son. Colin said that they could stop pretending, and he could settle down in this small town and open a shop that would bring in a good income in the men's alley of craftsmen. The witch supported him, saying that he could then blend in with the crowd and live with people, as he had wanted to before. The crushed and lost young man asked her if she was not his mother, then who was she? Without waiting for an answer, he said that he had had enough and they were going their separate ways, each to live their own lives. Philippa looked at him and said that she would do as he wanted. And finally, she would grant him one wish. Colin was a little puzzled, but with a grin asked her what wish she wanted to give him. Philippa said that she could do anything. Looking at her, the confused and perplexed young man quietly whispered his wish. He sincerely hoped that she could love him. Hearing this, the witch ran to him and rushed to hug him. She looked at him and said tenderly that she loved him too. He asked quietly, out of pity, in the last couple of years of their life, they got married and started living as a real family. Their family life was like a fairy tale. But unfortunately, death came as unexpectedly as family life. The witch was very surprised when she saw him. He found her, a happy young man looking at her, and asked her if he looked strange with two hands, also adding that he was back. The witch and the young boy continued to meet. Again and again, she was just as beautiful and young, and he changed his appearance many times, each time in different countries and formats. Several times he came to her very late for what another time he came too early and was very young, but fortunately they were able to be together longer. Unfortunately, he was always taken by sudden death. The witch reassured him, saying that she had already gotten used to waiting for him, and it would not be difficult for her to wait for him a little longer, since she had lived and was eternal. After her words, he became a little embarrassed. She laughed. Whole eras have changed since their last meeting. This time the young man was very smart. He was even surprised that his project to build a highway would bring profit in such difficult times. He knew that the young man was constantly under surveillance by the communists. But this did not stop him from making his wife happy. They spent time together, and she said that they found themselves in a very difficult time. Wars and coups haunted them. The man was talking on the phone and could not believe what he was being told. He was told that his people from the factory were taken to gas chambers because Colin was furiously disappointed in people. He was also angry at their vile deeds. He told his wife that she was right. She began to reassure him, saying that everyone has their faults. The witch said that because of their shortcomings, people become precious. The man said that it was not the first time she had said such words, but at the moment he did not understand their meaning. Colin said that on his way he saw many good people and many mentally retarded, but what struck him most were the meetings with evil people. After thinking for a while, Philippa laughed and said he looked like a hero. She asked him if he needed her witch's blessing. He just laughed at her suggestion and left. Unfortunately, his showdown did not lead to anything good. The witch saw his lifeless body from the crowd, which was hanging and did not show any signs of life. She heard only the conversations of the men standing near her. Some knew him and admired his deed, and some despised him. They said he was the boss of the communists. Some said that death suited him very. The witch stood and listened to all their conversations and was struck by their words. Philippa knew that at such times death was a common thing, but after their evil words towards her husband, she became very angry. Philippa used attack magic and killed everyone. She asked Lily how she was feeling. adding that in all this time, she still hadn't learned to control such magic. This was the first murder of a witch in her entire life. Lily had never seen such brutality. It is impossible to say for sure what thoughts were raging. A group of young girls and a stranger were walking along the road. They were a little upset because they had to swim across the river instead of walking along the road. The young individuals were talking to each other. They wanted to find a cozy place to dry off and rest a little. They saw a hotel that was in good condition and had not even been. When they entered the hotel, everyone stared at them, as they did not expect to see strangers in such a place. All the locals knew that the bridge was closed, so strangers could only get to their town through. One of the local men looked at the strangers and said that they were very suspicious. He pointed out one man in particular who looked very strange because he was wearing a dark hood. The owner of the hotel came up to them and told him not to bother new visitors, since she had not had any new guests for a long time, and she had to somehow survive in wartime. In order to ease the tension between the guests and the old customers, the man, who was wearing a hood, said that he would treat everyone and the drinks would be on him. Everyone sat and drank drinks while talking about the progress of the war, as well as the latest news. One of the men present said that their protector had returned. They praised him because he had protected the civilians and destroyed dragons and demons. One of the men present took off the stranger's hood and everyone saw his face. They were shocked because he was a simple man. But unfortunately, everyone present in the establishment saw that the man was missing one arm, and they realized that this was no ordinary man. This was their savior, the one-armed Black Storm. They were surprised. All present were shocked by his words. They asked him to tell them about his last battle. They wanted to know everything, how he killed the dragon. The men asked him to show the sword with which he had cut down the. They were animatedly spinning around him and asking about all his exploits. His chimera girlfriends looked at him and were no longer surprised by such a turn of events, because they knew that there was always. The young man met an old man. The old man asked him why he decided to fight on the side of the chimeras. Because man has always been against the chimeras. Colin said that he does not hate them, because he grew up with them and was also an outcast among people, because he was inferior in their. The drunk man began to tell different stories. He also began to tell a story about a scary woman, about a witch, who brought only misfortune to everyone. Colin is shocked that the woman's name is Philippa. He was shocked to the core as they crossed other parallel universes, but still their paths crossed. The girls walked towards the Demon Lord with Colin. The girls were a little puzzled that there were very few soldiers on their way, but they thought that the Demon Lord was already losing his grip. Colin walked forward, and on his way, he met a little girl. As he walked further, he saw a red-haired woman and told her that her castle was in very bad condition. She looked at him and asked where the other girls were. He said he wouldn't talk about the other girls in her presence. She asked how he could leave his comrades alone. Colin looked at her and said that this was the worst place she had ever lived in. He asked how long it had been since they last saw each other. Looking at her, the witch said that she could not stand the presence of people. She did not like the way they breathed. Their presence, their smile, their actions irritated her. He calmly approached her and said that the main reason she did it was because people killed. Colin decided to defuse the situation and joked a little about his death. The witch was furious at his words. She asked how he could joke about such a thing. It hurt her to see him killed, because he only wanted to help people, and they hanged him and threw stones at his lifeless, hanging body. He hugged her and said that everything would be fine now that he was next to her, and they could live happily. She looked and just laughed, saying that this would not happen. He was very surprised by her words and did not understand why she suddenly wanted this. Philippa said that if he did not do it, she would destroy this world and go to another. Wait for him for eternity, because witches live for eternity. He was angry at her words, saying that he would have preferred that she asked for jewelry or some gifts, or to get a star from the sky. He did everything for her, but he could not do such a thing. As always, with the same names and the same faces, the boy and the witch looked at each other. The young man was covered in blood. His girlfriends ran up to him and asked if he was okay, because they saw blood on him and there was a lot of it. He only said that he was okay and they needed to get out quickly because their victory over the dark forces was celebrated by everyone around. They could not believe that it was all over. And he defeated the evil witch after many. Everyone was shouting that he was a hero and that he saved them. It was also said that he brought proof of his victory. They saw the witch's hair. The witch asked him to cut off her head with a sword before she cast the spell. She desperately wanted him to finish her off before she destroyed the world they lived in. Everyone around chanted his name, saying that he was a hero. But unfortunately, he was not happy about it. He wanted to be with the witch, but Colin could not understand her. He knew that in this world their love had ended. But he promised to wait for her all his life, even if she did not come. In other words, now he will wait for her for eternity. For a witch, a familiar is like a part of herself. And for a familiar, it is an expression of power. That is why witches take many animals and make a contract with them. However, when they try to escape, Lily knew that her mistress Philippa was different from other witches. After all, she was crazy. The witches sat, drank tea, and discussed their animals. One witch was very concerned that when she used her magic, her animal ran away. The witches discussed not only their familiars, but also Philippa said they were very nice and she saw 2 guys stand up for another guy 3 days ago. The other witches asked her to tell more. Lily looked at her with bewilderment. She knew that the witch had her own plans, and she was surprised that she still had not had her first love. But when the witch finally had her first love, you could watch it forever. Lily was skeptical about the young boy. She asked the witch why she chose such a cute boy. Lily said she wouldn't be fooled like her mistress. They sat by the fire. He slipped her food. Lily said he didn't want it and he couldn't bribe her with food. But when she took a piece and tried it, she was very pleased. Lily knew that her mistress was not just playing at love and family. She had truly passionate feelings for the boy. The witch fell in love with him anew each time and experienced wild feelings. But unfortunately, these feelings quickly broke her. Lily knew that the witch destroyed everyone she saw, even if they weren't people. Lily told her mistress that she should stop and asked her what she was going to achieve with this. Colin told his friends that he would go alone and they should not follow them. Lily knew they had come through 5 dimensions, yet they had met, and wondered why now. She knew there was nothing left. Her mistress was crazy and the boy had become a hero, and all that was left for them was death. After all that Lily had seen, she no longer believed in love and said that she didn't like it anymore. Lily stood in the rain and cried. Her whole world was destroyed in an instant. She knew that love had destroyed their whole happy life. Lily lay on the grass and thought that her mistress had acted very rashly this time, since they had not made a proper contract. And she did not leave with her. She knew that most likely they would not meet again, but she also knew that this was the best option. Because she didn't like love and she didn't want to experience the same feelings as her mistress. Her thoughts were interrupted by a young man. It was the general who had approached her while he was making his rounds. He asked her what she was doing there. So young. She asked him to. The witches were sitting and talking about politics, witchcraft. They were discussing each other. One of the witches said that they had problems with the blonde witch. Because she hunts all. Cordelia looked and said that her sister was asking for trouble with her, but if she wanted so much, he could arrange it for her. But the girl said that she was just worried about her condition, since Kazarlane asked if she should play at love instead of hunting. The blonde witch was very angry with them and said that instead of attacking her, they could do something useful. Everyone was excited and shocked by her words and behavior. Her grandmother said that she had not met a witch like Cordelia for 1,000 years. They asked her to calm down and stop. The witch was very angry. Unfortunately for her, the hunt turned out badly for her. Disheveled and covered in blood, she sat near a tree and waited for the man to come. They were discussing her furiously. The witch heard all this, but promised to kill them. She was not going to give up so easily. The disheveled witch was seen by a young boy. The boy stood there, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, he heard his name being called and asked whether he had found anything or not. He quickly threw his jacket at the witch and shouted that he had found nothing. He approached his father, who asked where his jacket was. The boy hesitated and timidly said that he was simply scared by the shot and did not know where it was. His father looked at him. The witch sat and looked at the jacket with confusion. She wondered why the young boy helped her. The witches saw chaos in their home. But it was only a blonde witch, a young witch. She was very angry and scared. She screamed that she fell in love with a man. And she did not. Philippa screamed that falling in love with a human child was the most wonderful thing that could happen. The blonde girl was furious at her words. She cried, and Philippa hugged her and consoled her. The witch asked what was wrong with her. Maybe she was just sick and it wasn't love. Philippa calmed her down, said that it wasn't a disease. Philippa suggested that they go for a walk. They went to a play. Philippa was very glad that they went to a play about love. But Cordelia didn't think so. She sat and thought about the little boy, who was only 9 years old and she was 90. But after watching the play, she realized that there is no reason for love, and she loves him just like that. A little girl was walking and entered the property of an old grandmother who worked with medicinal herbs. She ran away screaming. The grandmother shouted after her. The old woman looked at her and said that she had no granddaughter and that she was simply delirious. The woman looked at her in surprise. She had no idea how the old woman could forget her family. She added that she had only one. The girl came out and told the woman that she was very sorry and asked her for forgiveness, saying that the grandmother had temporary problems with her memory. The children who were playing heard the noise and got scared. They knew that the noise was coming from the old woman's house. They thought that there was some kind of fight because they heard dishes breaking. She screamed that she would not give a penny. Subsequently, she beat the young beauty. The young witch thought that the old woman would be very useful to her. She brainwashed her. Everyone thought that she was her granddaughter. But for some reason, the old woman did not succumb. Cordelia wondered why this problem had to happen now. She wanted to just kill her, so she wouldn't have to bother, and said it out loud. The woman was furiously surprised. There was fear in her eyes, and in a fit of emotion, she screamed for them to call adults for help, because the witch wanted to kill her. The children ran in all directions and screamed that the old woman had gone crazy and was just calling her granddaughter. One of the boys asked her to calm down and pull herself together. The boy was stunned and excited when he saw a young girl who came out of the house. The blonde girl was beaten and bloody. She looked at him with wide. The old woman screamed at him not to look at her and that they were stupid children since they could not understand that she was a witch. The girl looked at the young boy and did not understand what was happening, whether he believed the old woman or not. After their daytime skirmish, the blonde witch was very angry and smashed the floor of the old woman's house. The old woman shouted at her to calm down, but the girl was furious. She could not control her anger and shouted that her love for the boy. As she was going out, she saw a letter. Looking at it, she realized who had sent it. She saw cute, sloppy handwriting. It was written by her young admirer. Mikael asked her to forgive him for not telling her person. The blonde girl was standing there reading the letter when an old woman came running out from behind her and asked her why she had stopped. She was asking a question and wanted to know the answer. She desperately wanted to know what her new plan was. The witch turned to her and said that she was a very rude and worthless person. The old woman looked at her with fury. She did not expect such words from the witch. The girl was sure that she would suffer. The old woman continued to scream at her furiously and threaten her with a knife. Cordelia looked at her and with the help of her magic sat her down on a chair. The witch approached her and said that she knew that the old woman stole money and things from ordinary citizens. The girl said that she would remain silent until the very end, as long as she sat there quiet. The next day, the blonde girl walked and looked at the flower that the young man had given her. She was very happy that he had written her a letter. Because of this, she loved him. She was the daughter of the owner of the herbalist's house. She had heard that her father was very cruel and was not surprised when she saw her very battered. Cordelia was surprised and very angry. She beat the tree furiously and screamed that she would kill everyone who came near her. She cried because she thought that the young boy had given the letter and the rose only to her. Philippa asked her to calm down, saying that the boy was just very kind, and he decided to comfort the beaten girl. The blonde witch screamed that she didn't want him to be kind to everyone. She wanted him to be kind only to her. Later, Cordelia and her grandmother were passing by the townspeople. One of the women asked if her grandmother had been diagnosed with something. Cordelia saw her father bullying the girl again. He shouted that she was clumsy, that she was only ruining the product and hurting their sales. He said that he would teach her a good lesson when they got home. All the men passed by with a smile on their faces when they saw the father beating his daughter. Only one boy stood and watched with a furious look. He wanted to help the girl, but unfortunately, Cordelia wished that he would not exist anymore so that she could continue living normally. When she got home, she sat and thought about how she could kill him. The witch did not understand why the boy gave her that flower, why she had only thoughts about him in her head. And finally, why when a girl is beaten, she wanted to cast a spell on everyone. All her worries instantly disappeared when she heard a noise outside. She knew that the old woman had not returned yet, since she began to leave the house more often. She was happy with this sweet gift, and she didn't understand why he sent it to her again, because she was very different from that little fragile girl. She was very pleased. Hearing a noise in the backyard, she decided to go there. When she arrived, she saw a terrible picture. Her grandmother was lying dead. The father was furious and beat the girl again. He shouted that she had broken a bottle of medicine, and that was why all the potion makers looked down on them. He asked her if she understood. Another man came up to her and hugged her and said that the girl was not at all to blame for the fact that he had not sold all the medicines. A drunk man shouted that the old woman and her granddaughter had become very annoying lately, and he didn't want them to get in their way. He said he would kill her. The girl ran after him and shouted for him to calm down because he had drunk a lot. He shouted for her to shut up or he would try the trap on her. Seeing her grandmother, the girl shouted for her not to go. The old woman paid for her ignorance and fell into a trap. The man also paid for his behavior. He drank water from the well, which the old woman poisoned. The little girl was in a frantic shock. She could not. Cordelia looked at what had happened and saw that the old woman had poisoned the well. She had poured laprax juice into it. She said that one sip could kill a person. The little girl stood and watched. She said that she had not done it. The blonde witch calmed her down and said that now they wouldn't mock her and beat her like that. A lot had happened in one night. A lot of people had died. They knew that these were accidents. One man was furious. He asked his friend why he didn't stop him. But the friend was no less furious and said that he did everything in his power. But the man didn't listen to him. The people who were standing at the cemetery asked them not to swear because there was no time for that now. The blonde girl cried furiously. Everyone felt very sorry for her, because they knew that she was left an orphan, and everyone said that she suffered a lot. The girl cried not because a young boy approached the witch and hugged her. He said that even though she was alone, she had to be strong. Everyone looked at them. They were discussing a little girl who stood there and didn't shed a single tear. People couldn't understand how she couldn't cry, because her father had died. They were shocked, even though he wasn't. They judged her at first and said that she would not be able to achieve anything. But after a couple of years, she moved to a big city, and when they heard the news, they were happy about her. And they said that they always believed in her, and in a small town, there were no more scapegoats, and now people started to bully a little boy who was missing one arm. After all the girls, only he was left. The men got tired of picking on the little boy. They turned their attention to Cordelia. They made fun of her, and they wanted to touch her. She decided to leave town and told her friend about it, whose young Philippa carried out her plan. The blonde girl watched from afar and understood that this was going beyond the pale. She told her that it was too childish. But still, her plan worked. The young boy grabbed the witch and told her not to go home because Philippa had stolen tomatoes again, and you wanted to make an outcast out of her. But when he realized what he had done, she reassured him, saying that everything was fine and asked why he didn't write her a letter. He said that he met Rita at night, and that's why he didn't give her the letter. He apologized to her again for grabbing her so suddenly and said that he was too careless. The girl told him to stop apologizing because she was already used to it, so everything was fine. He was confused. She said that yesterday the owner of the cigarette store also grabbed her. The girl calmed him down and said that she was fine and she managed to break free and remembered that she had secretly made him impotent that night. She said that the man from the town was saying very bad words about her. The boy said that this was. She came up to him and said that he could touch her whenever he wanted. She allowed him to. He moved away from her and said that it was too early for them to do something like that, and asked her not to do it again. Leaving, he said that she was not a thief and not a girl of easy virtue. So she stood there watching him go, knowing he was right. A month later, Philippa left the town as a witch. The girls stood there and discussed what had happened. The blonde witch, Cordelia, said that even if many thousands of years passed, she would help her in everything that she asked for. Philippa laughed and said that everything would be. A young boy was telling a blonde girl that his friend was missing, and no one cared about him. He was worried about him because he couldn't wander off alone and get into trouble. But she would know that he was. After a long conversation, McCoyle proposed to his young witch. She was shocked because she knew that he was worthy of more. And not just marry an orphan. People never stopped gossiping about her, but she still became the most beautiful bride in the world, and her husband, but also the most beautiful groom. Makawel came home with a smile on his face and said that he brought groceries. The blonde girl knew that all her troubles and disagreements with her mother-in-law were nothing. The witch felt offended for herself. She could no longer tolerate such treatment. She told her mother-in-law everything. There was furious anger because the daughter-in-law said ugly words right in front of her friend. The witch couldn't understand why her friend Philippa thought people were so nice. The girl got tired of this treatment and decided to take a little revenge on her mother-in-law using magic. Suddenly, her beloved husband came to the house. This caught her by surprise. All the guests began to run out of the house in a hurry, and her mother-in-law looked at her, told her son that all the commotion was caused by his wife, and she was even worse than that old woman, saying that she was a real witch. He started to leave the house in a hurry, and at the end he told his mother that he was no longer a boy who could be scolded. They were leaving, his mother screaming that he could not leave because this was his house. They were leaving and everyone was looking at them furiously. His mother did not stop and continued to shout that the girl had spoiled him very much, because he had been a very good boy before, and that she was leading him around by the nose. The girl pressed herself to her mother-in-law's chest. She understood that her mother-in-law's words were partly true. They moved to a big city. They had nothing with them. It was quite normal. Her husband was constantly apologizing that they were so poor. They came to a man in a big city who could provide them with work. He looked at them and said that he could not find anything for the man. Looking at the woman, he said that she was capable of many things, and he was angry with everyone and asked his wife for forgiveness for leaving the small town without even getting ready. She looked around and saw that there were a lot of women walking along the road. Then the idea came to her mind to open a cosmetics business. She prepared several products and sent her familiar to sell it. The girl did a very good job. The young witch created a product that could easily wash off makeup. The men were a little confused. But when the women heard this, they ran to the girl and gave all their money to buy the cleanser. With the money they got from the sales, they bought themselves a beautiful two-story house. On a fine evening they left, heard noise coming from the yard. One woman had a loud argument with her husband. He was confused why she hadn't cooked him anything to eat. She told him that she had. The witch said that it was none of their business. But when a young girl was beaten very badly by her husband, Mikhail brought her home and helped treat the wound. He apologized for bringing her into the house. But he couldn't. She showed her the documents where her salary was indicated. The woman was very happy with this turn of events and thanked her profusely. When she started earning much more than her husband, he quit. She came to Mikhail and cried furiously. Because he doesn't even look after the children, saying that he wants to open his own store. The witch expanded her shop and made a children's corner on the second floor. The girl was very happy and thanked them, saying that she would do everything and give it her all. The witch came home every time and saw how her beloved husband picked up and brought back beaten women. The witch was furious and also confused as to why men could do this to poor girls. Unexpectedly, it was not the beaten girl who came to them, but Mikhail's sister Shire. He was glad that she had dropped in, and he asked how long they had not seen each other. She said that it had been a very... The young beauty told the witch that she heard that they had opened a large enterprise. Cordelia said that they had simply opened a small shop. The girl interrupted her and said that he should not even be modest there, since she knew that they had opened outstanding. She asked her if she wanted to expand the service, if she wanted to join forces with her, since she had started studying cosmetics. The witch agreed. Shirley had every right to. The witch wanted to buy the third floor and acquire the entire building so she wouldn't have to pay rent. She got her way. They had a children's center on the third floor, a beauty salon on the second, and cosmetics on the first. She got rid of all the clutter. Returning home and her beloved husband was waiting for her, she was very happy. When they were alone, he asked her if it was time for them to have a child. Man lives to continue his race. Every living creature mates, and the girl stood and thought how tired she was of her husband, but she was told that she had been divorced for a long time. The girl said that she could not stand him, but their baby was very good and sweet. Another girl said that she liked that her son looked like her husband because he was already in heaven. And when she looked at him, she constantly remembered her husband. The witch knew that survived. She was terrified by the thought that she would have to share her husband with someone else, especially if this someone was female. The man was very happy. He said that he really hoped. He told her that now the three of them would be able to hold hands and walk, all together, and it would be a lot of fun. Cordelia was very scared. She ran to her. After many attempts, they finally did what she asked them to do. She decided to do it so that no one would suspect her of being a witch. There were women in the hospital. They were very upset, since their hospital was made only for women, but it does not bring in any profit and they do not have a single patient. She said she would pay them a lot of money and rent a whole floor from them, but she also asked them not to let anyone come to her. After she showered them with money at the hospital, they also didn't have a midwife, so the blonde witch brought her friend to help her and be there. Her friend said that her husband would be coming soon, so she should prepare for the difficult process. The girl sat exhausted, but very happy. She held her little child in her arms. The witch knew that her husband would now be happy too, because he had received a real family, which he had dreamed of for a long time. At the workers, all the female employees were whispering what a good husband their boss had. He was always polite and kind, and also performed all the household duties. She heard them whispering. It hurt her very much, because she did not want to share with anyone her beloved young little boy, whom she had loved since he was 9 years old. He was young and very kind and had not changed a bit since then. When young women left work, men were always waiting for them nearby, namely a bunch of bandits. They always complained that women stole their work. The girls discussed them. They knew that they were ordinary bandits. The men tried to reach and touch with their nasty hands, not only the girls who worked, but also their boss. One late evening, when the girls went home and closed their office for the night, bandits broke in. They were looking at the goods and discussing what they could steal. They were furious and smashed everything. They wanted to grab and abuse the other girls, but the blonde witch did not allow them to do so. In a fit of rage and anger, she used magic and killed them all. The blonde witch was covered in blood, as was her wildly beautiful dress. Her husband's sister accidentally saw her. In a fit of fear, she decided to run away. But one witch stopped her. She caught her, hugged her, and calmed her down, holding her until she ran away. She said that she would most likely blow up the building and go to another city. Her husband's sister heard this and said that she could not do that. The girls were confused about what she was talking about. She looked and said that the witch did nothing and they were not there anyway. The witch recalled everything, sitting in a clean office. She knew that those men were very famous and that they could be wanted. Everyone saw them, how they came late in the evening. The blonde witch did not understand why she had such problems and torment. Even her friend Philippa could tell that she tried very hard, but she felt that it was not enough. That same day, her husband came to her with a tearful daughter in his arms. He said that strangers had broken into their house. They said that one of them was from the police, but he was sure that was not true. He was covered in blood. They asked him if he was okay. As men burst into their building, they were angry. One of the men told the ladies to calm down because the girl was scared. She didn't want her husband to know the truth about her. She didn't want him to reveal her terrible secret. One of the men said that he knew that his guys went here late at night, and he didn't believe that they just disappeared. Many saw that his people were coming to them. The blonde witch stood and stared at him. She did not know what to answer. He continued furiously, saying that Mikhail laughed at his words and apologized, saying that he should have been a little more collected, but he couldn't help himself from such words of the man. The gang leader didn't ask how one could laugh. After his words, he laughed even harder. They all continued to make noise, but the little girl sat and listened to this ridiculous showdown. Some laughed, others shouted in anger. Michael laughed and remembered his young, youthful years when they were in a small town. His wife was also called a witch, and here she is also called a witch. The gang leader burst out laughing and said that even the witch's husband confessed that she was a witch and he was her slave. The young girls who worked at the factory laughed wildly at his words, and they stopped laughing at him. He pointed his fingers at them and said that not all the girls were witches. They laughed and turned the tables on each other, asking each other who was really a witch. The blonde girl stood and watched everything that was happening, and she was in a frantic confusion about what had just happened. Why were they laughing? She looked at her husband and thought that in her entire life she had never seen him so happy and laughing as now. She looked at her husband and smiled wildly herself, because for her there was nothing more pleasant and joyful than when he looked at the owner of the gang was very angry because everyone laughed at him. After all, they decided to disgrace him. The people who came with him tried to calm him down. But everything was fair. The blonde witch stood with her beloved husband holding hands. She knew that people were very naive and stupid, but her husband was not like that. He made her happy. She loved him. For the sake of her love, she was ready to do everything. And so the boy and the girl lived happily ever after, like in any other fairy tale. But in a slightly strange way, they had another. The girls were sitting in a cafe and discussing women's cosmetics. One of the girls was telling another that her great-grandmother never used another brand of cosmetics. She really liked the brand of only one company and that someone wrote that the founder is a witch, and even the buyers are called witches. Representatives of the company at one time decided to take advantage of the moment of fame and popularity. The girl stood and cried furiously. One of the witches asked her why she was standing there and not going to her father and spending the last minutes of her life with him. She only said that the mistress told her to be here. The witch and the boy lived together for more than 50 years, and in his last minutes of breathing, he lay on the bed with tenderness in his eyes and a smile on his face, talking to his beautiful wife. Cordelia sat by his bed and cried furiously. She told him that since he had become an old grandfather, he was beautiful and handsome, both now and in his younger years. He said that he was behaving very stupidly in front of his beloved wife. The man told her that they had spent a lot of time together, and they had a very good relationship. But unfortunately, there were many trials, which fortunately The blonde witch didn't understand what she could do. She wanted to use magic, use necromancy, do everything so that the young man could live many thousands of years with her. He looked at her with tenderness in his eyes and said that she was like his first love, from his former youth. She looked at him with bewilderment, not knowing what to answer. He said that when he was 9, he used to visit his relatives who lived very far away. She didn't understand why he was saying this now. She wondered if people really did get stupid and say strange things when they got old. But unfortunately, his mother never saw that jacket again. The girl did not understand why he was telling her this. She could only accept the fact that she was very similar to his first love. The man continued telling his story. He said that his mother had not seen the jacket because a witch hunt had suddenly started in the city, and they had gone to look for a witch. The witch realized that it was she, the moment she fell in love with him. She was very happy to hear this from him. He said that the girl was beautiful. He asked his wife if she wanted to conquer a tree or trample the earth or do something else. She was confused as to what he was talking about. He said that he had seen her angry when she was a baby. As she did all these, she asked him if he would love her when he found out she was a witch. He looked at her, his gaze filled with frantic misunderstanding. She looked, laughed, and said that she was speaking figuratively. He looked at her, his eyes filled with love, respect, and understanding. He said that she had always been his love and wife. He simply smiled and said that she was his. The girl looked at him and understood that even if he came back to life, he would not be able to return to their unforgettable moments. Even if he could return to this moment, he would not say the same words. Her husband looked at her and said that it didn't matter to him who she was. He loved her and would continue to love her forever, saying that he would keep their moments in his memory. She knew she had to finish here and now. It would be the most humane and beautiful thing. She wanted to tell her friend Philippa her beautiful love story. She wanted to tell the whole world about her passionate love that would live with her forever. It was her wonderful, unforgettable